this is Barry. I've been working with Barry about 6 weeks. If you just come and stand alongside Barry, you can see he's still very weak for a 6-year-old. He's got very little muscle here. He's quite slopey down here and his back. His hind leg is out behind him. So what we've been working on with Barry is training him not to use the underside of his neck to balance himself. We want him to draw up through his core, rotate this pelvis under so his hind leg comes further under. We want him to suck this chest back in like this so that he's able to engage that core, and that'll help him get stronger. He'll develop more muscle through the top of his neck. He already has changed shape an awful lot, and he's gone from struggling to hold a canter in a show jump course to jumping a really beautiful double clear at the weekend. The groundwork is so important to a horse like this, to be able to get onto the floor and evaluate where that horse's body is, where it needs to improve, without actually introducing a rider who can artificially make those things happen and not necessarily strengthen the horse through the whole of its body. Barry's got a very, very powerful hind leg, and it's slightly long for quite a small horse. So if I allow him to walk just as he wants to walk, bear in mind he's done 6 weeks of this, so he knows that he's not supposed to just walk onto his front end. He will take a huge step with his hind leg, and that pushes him forwards, and as you can see, he starts to engage these muscles under his neck to be able to hold him up. So we're just going to use this chain. It's just through his bit, it doesn't hurt them. It's just a bit of a communication for me. I'm just going to slow this walk down. What I'm asking him to do is take a quicker step with his hind leg. Now when he does this, you should be able to see, because he's a lovely dark colour, but you should be able to see a heave line appear on his tummy here. Now when he does that, when we've got this heave line, then he is actually drawing this tummy up, which will allow this hind leg to come further underneath him. And what we're looking for is that we can get him to let go and stretch down through his neck. So we're just going to keep saying, slow down, Barry. We're trying to keep the position on the circle because we want the inside of his body to be shorter than the outside of his body. So we're just going to say, hand, come round to the inside. Good, that's a better balance in the walk. Then you can see when we get that better balance, we can get him to let go through the base of his neck, and he puts his head and neck a little bit lower, and then he can use that neck for balance, but in the right place, because he's not trying to watch that hind leg doesn't push him over, push him onto his forehand. So I'm using the chain as it's basically my communication with him. Sometimes I'll use my body language, so if I want his shoulder out a bit, I could just shake the chain a little bit, walk towards that shoulder, because what I don't want him to do is run away from my body. I want to be able to say, I need that shoulder up a little bit, so I might use the chain and my hand a little bit towards his shoulder. I carry the stick behind me as if I was sitting on his back. I want to be about where my saddle would be, so that I can use my body to push him in or out on the circle. So you can see that walk's becoming much more level and much more even. And now he doesn't look like he's running away with himself. So when he's in this state and we've got him to let go through the base of his neck, we can ask him to trot. I'm just going to pop him onto a bit bigger circle. Just reminding him that his head stays this way and he listens to me. Now we're going to ask him to trot. What we're looking for when we're asking for the trot transition is that he doesn't go to his neck and lift his head up. So we'll try a trot transition, and if that happens, we're going to bring him back to walk and do it again. So I just didn't follow that trot transition through because you could see it was already going to go to his neck. So then we remind him to stay in his body. Watch me, Barry. You ready? Good boy. So there was a slight raise of his head. He slightly went to that neck again to pull himself back. But we're just going to whoa him and do that again. So we use the chain. Like I say, it doesn't hurt them. It just helps me to control the bit. The chain bit is not tight under his chin. It's so I can use it so it doesn't get tight. So it's back on itself, because I don't want it to get stuck under his chin. I want to be able to relieve any sort of pressure I put on instantaneously. If you put a rope through there, sometimes the rope will go tight and you can't release it. So we're going to get that walk back again. We're going to ask that hind leg to be a little bit more, a little bit quicker. And there we had a better transition to trot. So we're just half halting him, saying don't run onto that inside shoulder. Steady. So that was a lovely half halt there. We're just going to pop him onto a bit bigger circle. Good boy, good boy. So what we're asking him to do is what everybody would get if they put a Pessoa on or something like that. You use those aids, but in the end I find that what they do with those kind of aids is they rely on the aids instead of using the rest of their body. So we're going to ask for a little quicker walk. Barry. And trot. Good boy. And again, I want him on a bit bigger circle. So I'm just going to use the rein to say, get that shoulder away from it. Good boy. Good boy. I'm walking with him. He wants to go back to this left shoulder. I haven't worked him since he ran at the weekend. So they usually go back a little bit to default mode when they've not been done in hand after a competition. That's why it's really important the first couple of days back in work after a competition that you get them on the floor, get them strong. I want him out a little bit further. At the moment he's just relying on my body language. I want him to stand on his own 4 feet. Stay out there, lad. Good boy. I'm just half halting him whenever he needs it. And we want him in that place. Now I'm not sure whether you can see his abdominal muscles, but he's really engaging them. He's very black, so it's hard to see him. He's taking full advantage of me not completely concentrating. Right. That was better. Good boy. So in the walk trot transition, you would see that there I had to really whoa him, but also add a little bit with my stick. I'm not touching him, but I show him it, because what I want him to do is I want him to be quicker. So what he does is he tends to go really much longer and slower in his hind leg there. And when you want a transition, you need to get them quicker in their hind leg. So we're going to go, yeah, good boy. Good boy, out. So we're just going to say out. Good boy. Good boy. And then again, when you first start with this, you might feel like it's Groundhog Day, and you might have to keep saying, and whoa, and off the inside shoulder, and whoa, and off the inside shoulder. And you can see he started to let go in his body there. Good boy. Good boy. So, as you can see, when he blows his nose, he's blowing his nose because he's letting go in his whole body. He's relaxing, he's happy. We've got no chomping, his ears are forward, his hind legs are coming through pretty straight. He did struggle when I first started, And he would always step one of his hind legs out. This is another thing that he struggles with, is halting. So, good boy. So this is another thing, an interesting thing that he does, is he struggles to stand with this left hind leg underneath him. So that's a really, to be fair, I've been working with that, and I've had to manually move his left hind to where I wanted it to be, because he obviously finds it's quite hard work. And that'll be because he's sort of shortened up the hamstrings down the back, because he doesn't use this hind leg as much as he uses the right hind leg. I'm going to move him onto the other rein. This is a really good exercise to use, and it's very simple. Whenever I change the rein, I ask them to rein back, and then what I ask them to do is stay straight in this shoulder and step that inside 4. We're going to go back, and we want him to open his front legs like this. Now when he does that, it means that he is sitting on his hind leg and turning through the whole of his body. If you've got a horse that can turn one way like that easier than the other, you know it isn't sitting on the diagonal pair. So that's something to consider. So we're going to put him out onto the in walk on this rein. So how he is going now with his head down and nice and soft, that took a couple of weeks to be able to get him to that point where he knew he didn't have to just hold himself together. He knew he could trust that all of his legs were going to do what they needed to do. So he's now pretty much self-reliant. He can hold himself together using the hold of his body instead of just going to that underside of his neck. Good boy. I'm going to do the same with the walk transition, so walk trot transition. So we're going to make sure that hind leg doesn't get too long and lollopy. I'm going to shorten him up, and then we get that trot transition. Steady. Steady. Good boy. Good boy. Steady. So he finds it harder on this rein. It's his left hind leg he puts out. He's shorter, slightly shorter through that left side, which is why he struggles to stand with the left hind underneath him. If you can see, I don't know whether you can see from the back, as he trots away, he doesn't quite want to bring the left hind to the left fore. Can you see? That's a lot better than it was. But we're just going to keep reminding him that that stays on the same track as the left fore. And this is probably a little bit rider related. Could be that he's been led in and out from the field in a certain way. Again, taking full advantage of me not concentrating. So we're going to, that was better. Good boy. Good boy. So the softer we can get him through the whole of his body, the more he's using every single muscle how it's supposed to be, and the less wear and tear there is on their joints. Now, I don't know whether you can see, but he's really burrowing. This horse is fit enough to jump around a novice, but if you can see how hard that is for him, he's absolutely blowing, and you've seen every bit of that clip. You've seen every bit of his workout. So just getting them to use their whole body, it's a hugely beneficial to them from a fitness level as well. So I'm really, really pleased with that session with Barry. He's really come on in the last 6 weeks. It's showing in his performance at a competition. It's showing in how his body's looking and how he's muscling up. Another 6 weeks of that, and I reckon he'll be a different horse. So I'm hoping that with this, you are all looking at your horses and maybe seeing a different side of where they're working. I like to look at the horses from a different perspective. I've worked with much more difficult challenging horses over the years, and I've always found that it's been their body that hasn't allowed them to do the job. Train their body and their minds will follow. Let us know in the comments what you think, and thank you.